Hey there, and welcome to another episode of your favorite libertarian. Today's episode, we're going to be doing a first shots and tabletop review of the M&P 1522 pistol. And now it's time for everyone's favorite portion of the video, what's in the box? This is the portion of the video where I show you what's in the box. First off, the box. We have to talk about it because it's cardboard. Some people might be upset by this. I'm fine with a cardboard box because I've never in my life ever used the case that the gun came in to transport to the range to use it. So I'm fine with this being cardboard if it saves money on the total cost of the gun. Moving on. You've got some foam to protect the gun itself. And then there's the gun. Obviously, this is not a true unboxing because this red dot did not come with the gun. It came without the optic, but otherwise everything, there we go. Everything in this box is what came with it. So you have your ATF handgun safety act notice thing, firearms responsibility pamphlet, the lock that most people just put in a closet somewhere, warnings, this is from California, so you know it's got to be good, registration card, and then you have your owner's manual. This is just like a lot of M&P owner's manuals, very extensive. I won't bore you with all the details, but lots of warnings, most of it's warnings. Then it shows you everything about it that you'd want to know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It operates very similar to regular AR-15 with the exception of the bolt, and I'll get into some of that stuff a little bit later. But there's your owner's manual, and then you have the firearm itself with a chamber flag in it, and you have one 25-round magazine. But I also happen to buy these. Now let's take a closer look. You probably couldn't tell from the pictures on the internet, but this is mostly made of plastic, which is why it's so light. What's made of plastic on this gun, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you did, because I'll tell you. The lower, the upper, the safety, the charging handle, parts of the mag catch mag release, parts of the bolt catch bolt release, the pistol grip, the trigger guard, the forend, the buffer tube, parts of the bolt carrier group, most of this mag, and of course the brace. But wait, is there anything made of metal on this gun? Why yes. The flash hider, the barrel nut, the chamber, most of the bolt carrier group, the firing control group, the takedown pins, and the spring in this magazine. Pros and cons. These pros and cons are going to be specific to a mostly plastic gun like this. The first pro should be pretty obvious, and that is, since it's mostly plastic, it is extremely lightweight. We're talking right around 3 pounds for this gun, which is, even for a pretty lightweight AR-15 build, probably half of the weight of one of those. That's going to make this great for a backpack gun or a gun that you take hiking with you, and it's going to be great for someone who is weaker that can't hold up a firearm or an air pistol normally, or some type of rifle for extended periods of time that easily. The last pro I can think of, and if you can think of any more, let me know in the comment section below. But the last pro I can think of is that this being mostly plastic keeps the cost down. This is a very affordable option. If you're wanting to get into the AR platform, just dip your toe in, and you want something that is within your budget, maybe you have a really tight budget. This exact gun was $425 before theft, and it allows someone who is very price conscious or only has so much money to still have something that is in a rifle cartridge that's the AR-15 platform. And I'm not mad about that. And now for the cons. This is probably not as durable as its older brother. Close-up time. The safety, it doesn't really click back into place. It's kind of like goes there. See how there's a kind of a click here, but then that's it. Now the safety does work. I have tested it, but it's not a positive metallic click both ways, which is not great. It's not what I'm used to in the AR-15 pistol platform. Now this is very light, which is great, but if we're talking about where all the weight is in this setup, it is in the front. It's very front heavy. You have the muzzle device, you have the barrel and the barrel nut, and then you have the more metal parts of the bolt carrier group and your optic. The only thing that's really metal after that are like little tiny parts like the takedown pins, the trigger, stuff like that. There's no buffer to give you extra weight back here. So it kind of just wants to do that, which may be good, may be bad to you, but I'm going to say it's a con, especially since this is going to be getting a suppressor at some point, and then it's going to be even more front heavy. I wouldn't cry too much about it because it's still around 3 pounds. Because this is mostly plastic on the outside, it scratches very easily. When I went to pick up this gun at my local dealer, the first one they brought out was all scratched up just from shipping and handling. And so I was like, hey, could I get one that's not like that? They brought out another one, and that other one was this. It was in great shape, but I know that at some point it's going to get all scratched up because it is plastic. Will the plastic pick rail here and pick rail on the upper receiver hold zero? We'll see. Stay tuned. One of the questions that you might have if you either already have an AR-15 pistol chambered in 5.56 or 300 blackout and are looking to get into the 1522 pistol, or if you don't have either and are just looking to dip your toe in with the 1522 pistol, is what the difference would be between these two platforms. First, I'll go over the differences and then I'll go over the similarities. First, let's talk about what feeds these hungry boys, and that is a magazine. There's quite a few differences between the two. The first that you'll probably notice right off the bat is that this is a double stack magazine for a 5.56 chambered AR-15 pistol, and this is a single stack. Because of that, there's going to be a few differences. One, this is going to hold less rounds than this will. This is a 30 round magazine. This is a 25 round magazine. Because this is single stack, in order to get 25 rounds in this magazine, it has to be longer. So you can see there's quite a bit of difference in length. Part of that is because you have this additional piece here where it feeds. It has to come down to a smaller spot to be able to fit this tiny round in that tiny chamber. The other reason is that you have this monopod design, so it's got a piece added at the bottom so that you can have this act as a monopod and stabilize kind of on the magazine as you're shooting if you want to. So, there's that as well. You're not going to be able to fit as many rounds in as small of a package with a single stack magazine. This magazine is also not as protected. As you see here, you can see rounds from the outside looking in, and some magazines for AR-15s are like this. Some are black or other colors, solid colors where you can't see through. Some of them have a window, but all of them are protecting the sides. The only spot really you can't protect is obviously where you have to put the rounds in and where they come out. That has to stay open for obvious reasons. But otherwise, if you're worried about training in an environment where there's dirt and debris and junk that could get in your magazines as you're dropping them or rolling around in the dirt with them, you're less likely to have issues with this type of setup. Whereas if you have this magazine, you might have some more issues. One, 22 is just finicky in general in loading and feeding, but you also have this cutout on each side, and this is not a window. This is just straight up exposed to the elements. Lastly, let's talk about that feeding area. Again, it is protruding out further, so you can load that tiny round in that tiny chamber, but you also have, which is nice, which is actually better than this for loading, this little loading assist on each side. You have this little nub here on each side, and you can grab these and pull the follower down so you can easily load the next round and relieve that spring tension. That's pretty nice. A big difference between these two setups is the bolt carrier group and also the recoil system. Before I can go into an in-depth comparison between the two, I first have to establish the baseline, which is the direct impingement AR-15. So for those of you who already know this stuff, feel free to skip ahead, but I feel that it is a good baseline to go off of, and it's also going to be helpful for people that are just dipping their toe into the AR-15 pistol world and want to learn something. So this is the upper receiver of a direct impingement AR-15 pistol. The way that this works is that you have a round that is fired. The excess gas from that round is pushed back into the barrel and then at some point gets to the gas block. There's a little tiny hole in the barrel at the top of the barrel that then feeds into this gas block here and connects to a gas tube. The gas tube runs along top of the barrel, and you can see it right there. It's that shiny piece there. It then feeds into the upper receiver, which then feeds the gas to this gas key. This gas key is connected to the bolt carrier group, and that amount of gas is enough to push this entire bolt carrier group rearward into the buffer tube, which consists of a hollowed out buffer tube, this buffer, and a buffer spring that pushes against it. And because there's a spring in here, it pushes back and allows this to move far enough back to get rid of that spent casing and go into this buffer. Then the spring, once it's compressed, relieves itself, goes to full extension, and brings this bolt carrier group back towards the chamber, picking up the next round from the magazine and loading the next round into the chamber. So that's how that works. The M&P 1522 pistol bolt carrier group is much different. Think of this more like a handgun, like a Glock 19 or an M&P 9 setup, where you don't have a direct impingement system, so there's no gas tube needed. You just have the inertia of that spent round, those gases coming back, pushing this mass rearward, and then you have a spring connected that is helping to absorb some of that force and then wants to expand again to its natural state and push this reciprocating mass back to the front. So what's happening as it's doing that, it's riding on these little tracks here. It's also taking this extractor right here, and then there's also an extractor, which is unique, connected to the chamber that's in the upper receiver. So you have dual extractors there. It's extracting that spent casing as it's coming back. So out with the old, in with the new. As it comes back forward, this little piece right here is picking up the next round and helping to feed it into the chamber as it's coming back. So I'll show you a little slow-mo of that. Pretty neat. Because this is so compact, you don't need this setup here. We have the buffer and the spring and all that jazz. This is kind of just a placeholder. This is, there's nothing that can go in here. It's solid. And it's just really a way for you to attach a stock or a brace. Lastly, the charging handles. Here's your AR-15 charging handle. Here's your 1522 charging handle. Obviously a difference in length, material as well, all plastic except for a roll pin and the spring in here. This one's all metal. This one, which the AR-15 one, has a little hole here to make room for that gas key. Whereas this, because it doesn't need a gas key to work, does not have a hole. It also doesn't have these little nubs here that allow you to get higher up into the upper receiver to have that gas key go through it. All you need to do to get this to work is put it over that little nub, and it allows you to pull it back when you need to pull it back. Pretty simple. Now for the similarities between a standard AR-15 pistole and the M&P 1522. First of which is going to be the trigger assembly. You can put drop-in triggers in this if you want, just like you could in this guy. If you want to spend the same amount you spent on the gun on the trigger, you can put a Geissele in here. M-LOK rail, and this is a horrible example because this is not true M-LOK, but typically when you buy an AR-15 pistol, it's going to come with some type of M-LOK rail. This is M-LOK as well. It's plastic, but you can still attach M-LOK accessories. These both have the same dimensions and controls. Obviously, this is a shorter barrel, but the way that it works, the way that you operate it, load it, unload it, all of that stuff is the same. Similar takedown, and I put that in air quotes because you still have the pins that pop out on both of these. That's the same. You remove the upper from the lower. That's the same. The difference is just going to be this charging handle. You can pull the whole assembly out. You don't have to first pull the bolt out and then pull the rest of this out because you don't have that channel that it has to pop into. So that's a little bit of a difference. Other than that though, pretty much the same as far as that goes. If you want to take the bolt carrier group apart, that's going to be completely different. You have similar magazines and dimensions. These will both fit in regular AR-15 mag pouches as long as they're open top. If you have something that closes up over top of it, you might need to adjust it because this one's slightly longer, but these will both work in all of the different gear that you have most likely. Both of these accept AR-15 stocks and braces, so that's cool. They both accept the same type of pistol grips, which is also cool. The safeties, I'm not sure if those are interchangeable. And also the mag catch mag release, I'm not sure if that's interchangeable. And I probably wouldn't change it out on this just because the piece that catches onto the magazine is plastic and it meets up against this plastic. I think if you were to put an all metal assembly in here, it would start chewing this up and then eventually these wouldn't lock in place. So you clicked on a video about a 22. Well, you might not know this, but there's an unofficial rule on the internet that says if you review anything that's chambered in 22, you have to talk about the cartridge and whether or not it's effective, what's good or bad about it, and of course, if the platforms that house the 22 are good or bad. So we're gonna do a 22 specific pros and cons. First con, of course, is going to be stopping power. Everyone talks about the horrible stopping power of the 22, how anemic it is, how horrible it is at doing anything right. Well, got two words for you internet keyboard crusaders out there. Shot placement. Reliability and durability. I would probably say historically that has been an issue with the 22 and most platforms that house the 22 cartridge. However, I would recommend you check out 704 Tactical's YouTube page or channel, if you will, because he has done extensive testing on not only the 1522 rifle version, but also this exact, not this exact because I'm holding this exact one, but this exact model M&P 1522 pistol. He would beg to differ on those 2 points. Capacity. This, historically, again, the 22 has not been the best for capacity. After you get over 10 rounds, things kind of start to fall apart and bad stuff starts to happen. You have feeding issues, you can't get it to go up or down, and as far as the follower goes with the spring, you start getting jams and have to smack the magazine and reload it, and you have to take really great care in how you load it. Modern technologies have afforded us the luxury of companies like Taurus and Kel-Tec, of all companies, making magazines that hold way more than 10 rounds for the 22 long rifle in the handgun platform. Now, 25 rounds for this magazine is pretty good, and I'll tell you why. One, it's 5 less rounds. It's only 5 less rounds than a 5.56 version of a magazine that works in an AR platform. And it feeds, and this is the most important part, it feeds reliably. But it is a little bit bigger, and it doesn't hold as many rounds. So still, you got to ding for capacity. Pros. All right, obvious pros time. First of which is there's no recoil, which means it's going to be really easy to get those follow-up shots really fast, and you're going to be able to teach new shooters very easily. They're not going to be worried about the recoil aspect, which is one of the things that most shooters are worried about when they first get started. And Again, being that there's no recoil, anyone of any size can use it. That means elderly, people with disabilities, for the most part, depending on your disability, and kids. It's great to teach all those people and get them something so that they can arm themselves to protect themselves. And that's a pro. Secondly, this round has the potential to be very quiet. This is already a pretty quiet round compared to other rounds out there like the 5.56. The 5.56 is extremely loud. Now, I wouldn't recommend shooting either of them indoors without ear pro, but if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the 22 if the only concern I had was my hearing. If you were to suppress this, there's a couple things that are really great about it. One, it's probably the only round, besides maybe the 300 Blackout, that you could get movie quiet by suppressing. But two, it's the most affordable thing to suppress. A can for a 22 is usually going to run around $300-ish before theft. And you are going to be able to get it lighter and smaller than a can for 5.56 or 300 Blackout. 300 Blackout or 5.56 cans, usually for a good one, is around $1,000 before the $200 theft stamp. And you're having a really big can on the end of it that's going to weigh a lot in order to get those decibel reductions. Being that it can be really quiet, if you had this in a suppressed setup, which, let's face it, we all want to see and will probably happen, but stay tuned to the channel to find out. Don't forget to subscribe. It's going to take the other big barrier for new shooters, and that is the really loud bang when they shoot. So we take out the recoil, we take out the loud bang, and it makes it very easy to get new shooters into an AR platform. Let's talk about a pricing pro. You can get about 1,000 rounds of 22 right now, depending on the brand. And again, I'm talking at the filming of this video for 10 cents a round. That means for $100 you can get 1,000 rounds of 22. That's pretty rad. That means you're going to be able to shoot more and train more affordably. Speaking of ammo, you're also not weighed down by the ammo itself. This is 1,000 rounds of 22. This is all the space it takes up. That's it. You could put that in a backpack very easily and have 1,000 rounds on you in your backpack, along with, of course, your AR-15 style 1522 pistol. And now for a little range recap. I ran all sorts of really old corroded 22 and 22 short through this gun. I had one failure to feed from the first mag, and it was the last round of the first mag. Probably, I'm guessing, since this is really, really old ammunition, probably ammo related. I also should note that I shot this gun right out of the box, right after I bought it, just slapped a red dot on it and started shooting. No lube, did not clean it, just started shooting. And again, I should preface this range report with this being more of a function test than anything else. But if you want all sorts of accuracy results, be sure to stay tuned for that. Final thoughts. So why did I buy this exact gun? Well, ultimately I want something that's going to be a great training tool for my sons. This, again, all the pros we talked about before, low recoil, very quiet, even better suppressed, and I probably will suppress this to make it an even better training tool. Another big piece of this is that it has the same manual of arms as Daddy's guns. So it's going to be very easy once they get older and start getting into the big boy calibers to transition them over to that. They'll already have familiarity with the manual of arms. I could also see this excelling as a bag gun if need be. I am super stoked with this edition, and I'm looking forward to taking my son shooting for the first time. If you made it to the outro, you are a true wizard. Make sure you type in the comment section below, wizard plus 1 level. I now have a link tree. That means all the links that YouTube does not want me to put in the description of this video on YouTube will be on my link tree. If you look in the description, there'll still be a link tree link that links to a bunch of other links. So if you want to check out those links and support the channel, that would be great. One of them is taking you to my Rumble account. If you click the Join Rumble link and you sign up, I will get compensated somehow for that. It hasn't happened yet, but maybe today's the day. It's free for you. All you have to do is click that Join Rumble button and it'll take you to the website. You can sign up and you can have an account on a platform that is much more freedom focused, much more focused around free speech, and does not like censorship. That's where probably some of my videos that aren't allowed on YouTube will be, so feel free to check those out. But ultimately, it's a place that if I get canceled on YouTube, I'll still have videos for you guys to watch. So check that out. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay free